What's up, peeps? Julian Williams here at the distance. Larry Holmes here, one of the greatest heavyweights ever. About to fight here. I think it's one of his earlier fights, I want to say. So anyway, I have another question I'm going to answer here on video. This one is, what can Freddie Roach do to add to Miguel Cotto's game? So, we all know Miguel Cotto is going to be facing Delvin Rodriguez on October the 5th on HBO. And he's added Freddie Roach to his corner, Hall of Fame trainer. And over the last few years, Cotto's had his fair share of trainers. Ever since he left his uncle Evangelista Cotto back in 2008, 2009. And I guess there was a big fight among both of them before the Clottey fight. And then he had one dude that I guess was his friend that trained him for the Pacquiao fight. Didn't do that good of a job. He had Manuel Stewart for a couple fights against Foreman and Ricardo Mayorga. I mean, he did a good job with Cotto, but then there were some scheduling conflicts with him and Stewart, so he wasn't able to train him for the rematch against Margarito. So he got, I want to say his name is Pedro Diaz. He was the Olympic boxing trainer. And I thought Pedro Diaz was a good trainer for Cotto, because Pedro Diaz, I believe, just made his offense look a lot sharper, and he reserved his shots a lot more with Pedro Diaz, and his punches looked a lot crisper. With Evangelista, he would box, he would kind of change it up a bit. You know, he would use his angles, he'd box a little bit. You know, depending on, the type of fight he was in, but then he would get this mentality where he would get in the dog fights with some of his opponents. And then, but he was going in and he was getting rounds with some good fighters too, so I mean, it is what it is. So Evangelista was his original trainer, I believe. I'm not too sure, but Evangelista, I thought, did well with him. And then the other guy, I don't want to get into it. He didn't show Cotto how to make any adjustments. Wasn't even a boxing trainer. He was one of his homeboys that became the trainer. It just wasn't, fit to be a trainer. And then you had Manuel Stewart, I think the greatest trainer of all time. Manuel Stewart just calmed him down a little bit. He made him, he had him to where he didn't throw too many pork barrel shots. He threw when he saw the opening more with Manuel Stewart, and he was more patient and more relaxed. Because now he has a real trainer in his corner. And then Pedro Diaz, as I mentioned, made his offense look a lot sharper. His punches were crisper. He seemed to be a little more faster on his hands. His timing was a little bit better with Diaz's training style. I thought Diaz did well with him. However, I mean, he lost a couple fights in a row with Austin Trout and Floyd Mayweather. So I guess, he parted ways with him. Now he has Freddie Roach. From day one, I will tell you, I mean, Freddie Roach might be an asshole, but dude knows his boxing. He knows his boxing. And now he does well with fighters that have their own instinct on how they fight. They know their own style, and they know what they want to do in fights. They know their style. They kind of perfect their own style in a way. But sometimes you might need a trainer who can see something that no other trainer can see. They're your eyes and ears when you get to the corner. I think that Freddie Roach is more than likely is going to make Cotto a little more aggressive. I don't think he wants to be as aggressive as he was when he was at 140 pounds. I think what Roach may do is what I think he's going to do, I don't think Roach emphasizes too much on defense. I think he emphasizes a lot on offense and making, the punches count, or throwing punches, and, working to get points in fights. That's just his style. However, he does have fighters like a James Toney or Bernard Hopkins. He's had fighters that weren't like that. They just had Freddie Roach because they know he's a good trainer. And he's just good to have in the corner. I mean, he learned from one of the greatest, Eddie Futch. And Eddie Futch was a strategist. And he could take any fighter, and he could tell you what they do, what their strength is. He could tell them what the weakness is, and he could tell them how they can utilize their strength from another aspect. And Freddie Roach isn't that type of trainer, but he does well with taking a fighter who is a good offensive fighter and just showing them, hey, you don't have to throw the jab like this. Maybe you could still throw it like that, but here's another way to throw the jab, or step around them, and then throw the left hook to the body. I think that Freddie Roach will more than likely add to me, I think he's going to add more of a intelligent pressure base to Miguel Cotto. I think he's going to make him a little more intelligent as he applies pressure rather than just stepping in and throwing punches. Because, there are fighters that go in that he has that just stepped in and threw punches, like Amir Khan, Manny Pacquiao, even Jorge Linares, from time to time. But he knows what he has with Miguel Cotto. He knows Miguel Cotto is, and the thing too is, he could have went to any trainer. Any trainer would love to have had Miguel Cotto. He could have went, cross town to Robert Garcia. But, but being the consummate professional that Miguel Cotto is, I know he wanted to make weight. So, you might as well go to Freddie Roach. No pun intended, Mr. Robert Garcia. Now, like I said, I just think that, like I said, what Roach is probably going to add, he's going to add one thing I think he's going to emphasize a lot on too, is that first step that Cotto takes. He's going to emphasize a lot in that first step, because when Cotto can make that first step, he telegraphs a little bit, or he ducks his head a little bit, he exposes his chin. I think he's going to emphasize a lot in that first step. The first step, because that's important, especially if you're applying pressure. You don't want to take that first step and get caught walking in. And also, Delvin Rodriguez can be a tricky fighter. He's one of those guys that always came up short. So of course, Cole's gonna take this one seriously. I think that Roach is gonna add more on silent intangibles, more so than anything else. Just the things that he knows that Cotto can just do better on. And I think that Roach may be a good trainer for Cotto. Dude knows boxing. He's trained some of the best. So we'll see. So anyway, peeps, I'm out of here. That was Distance. Thanks for watching. Peace.